Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here with another Master Duel video for you guys. Today we're going to be looking at yet another Limit 1 Festival deck. And this one's a little bit of an original, I guess all the decks so far have been original creations of mine. I've been building them myself and not looking up lists. But this one I decided to get a little bit more creative, and I thought to myself, I want a good going second deck for this festival. What's a good going second deck? And I was like, well, Sky Strikers are really good going second. Zoodiacs are really good going second. And Kaijus are obviously really good when you go second. So then I just decided, hey, I'll just play Sky Striker, Zoodiac, Kaiju. Which might sound like a bit of a random mishmash, but it all actually works really well together. Zoodiac and Sky Strikers play extremely similarly in that they are very controlling, not stun, but like control-based decks that will often sit on a relatively small amount of monsters on board and then rely on those monsters' effects as well as some powerful disruption tools in order to be able to just control down the opponent and keep them from winning. Basically, you win by keeping them from winning almost in a way. So they're also both going second decks. They both prefer to play going second. So they both also play similarly in that regard. Then of course, Kaijus are also very good going second. I say Kaiju, but we're really only playing like 4 Kaiju monsters. So it's not really that much of a Kaiju engine. It's just a little package here, but they definitely do come up quite a bit and are obviously really good going second, as you need to tribute your opponent's monsters in order to summon them. So funnily enough, there's not really anything too out of the ordinary, I guess, as far as like cards you would expect to see in Sky Striker decks and in Zoodiac decks. There's not really anything super out there that I decided to include. I just, I included Zoodiac and Sky Striker cards. They worked pretty well together. Actually, this deck was working very, very well, and I managed to get quite a few good games that we're going to show off here as soon as we go through the card list, which I guess I'll just go ahead and do right now. So starting from the top, we've got Cyframe Driver, Effect Veiler, Max C, Cyframe Gear Gamma, Ash Blossom Joyous Spring, Ghost Spell and Haunted Mansion, Zoodiac Bunny Blast, Zoodiac Whiptail, Zoodiac Thoroughblade, Zoodiac Ram, and Zoodiac Cataroost, Sky Striker Ace Ray, Sky Striker Ace Roz, Kamungus, I always forget that's what this card's actually called, the Sticky String Kaiju, Gamma Seal, the Sea Turtle Kaiju, Gadrala, the Mystery Dust Kaiju, Jizukiru, the Star Destroying Kaiju, and then Nibiru, the Primal Being for monsters, and spells we have Raigeki, Harpy's Feather Duster, Reinforcement of the Army, Terraforming, Pot of Avarice, Engage, Sky Striker Mobilize Engage, Sky Striker Maneuver Afterburner, Sky Striker Maneuver Jamming Waves, Lightning Storm, Pot of Prosperity, Sky Striker Airspace Area 0, Fire Formation Tenyi, Sky Striker Mecha Modules Multi-Roll, Forbidden Chalice, Call by the Grave, Sky Striker Mecha Hornet Drones, Sky Striker Mecha Widow Anchor, Sky Striker Mecha Eagle Booster, Sky Striker Mecha Shark Cannon, Crossout Designator, Forbidden Droplet, and then finally Infinite Permanence. Now down here in the extra deck, we've got number F0 Utopic Future, number F0 Utopic Draco Future, Zoodiac Tiger Mortar, Zoodiac Trident, Zoodiac Borbo, Zoodiac Hammer Kong, Zoodiac Chakanine, Divine Arsenal Zeus Sky Thunder, Sky Striker Ace Kagiri, Sky Striker Ace Shizuku, Sky Striker Ace Hayate, Sky Striker Ace Kaina, Sky Striker Ace Zeke, Nightmare Unicorn, and then finally Access Code Talker. So yeah, I really liked this build and just the way it was playing out. Even the little Kaiju engine, I kind of thought about expanding on it a little bit, even during the initial deck building processing, but also as I was playing. You could definitely expand by including the multi-dimensional Kaiju that summons tokens, as well as the Kyoto Waterfront, the field spell, because we're already playing Terraforming anyway. So there's kind of, in that regard, I don't want to say there's no reason not to play the Kyoto Waterfront, but you can kind of play it more for free than you might think. So again, I was a little tempted to add those, but I ultimately just decided to cut back on those, the Kaiju engine a little bit to make space for other cards. Looking at my current build now that I've played a few games, I can see myself dropping the Eagle Booster. This is kind of like, didn't really come up that much and is a little bit unnecessary. And then I'm sure I could pretty easily find one other card to cut out of here. Maybe like, I don't want to say Jamming Waves because, back row removal is actually really important in this format. So it's really nice to have the Jamming Waves for that. Maybe the Chalice or something. Along with the Eagle Booster, I could see cutting for like the multi-dimensional Kaiju. Radiant is what it's called. Radiant, the multi-dimensional Kaiju in the Kyoto waterfront. So as far as the extra deck goes, I'm pretty satisfied with it. I don't know that there's anything I would change off the top of my head. No, I think I'd pretty much keep it as it is. Yeah, I'm just looking over the main deck here, just trying to figure out. I feel like there's one other change maybe, but I don't know. I'm looking at the list here, and yeah, it really is maybe just potentially adding. And that's not even a change I think you have to make. I think I would drop the Eagle Booster for something, though, just because, again, this didn't really come up at all, and I just don't think it's really that necessary. But that's really the real, like, most flexible spot in this current build, I think. So, yeah, if you have any suggestions for the build, though, feel free to chime in with those in the comments. I always love hearing the feedback from you guys on that, so do let me know. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and take a look at some replays here. Okay, so the first game we're going to be playing against was, I was going to say it's a 60 card, Kaiju kind of Danger Kaiju deck, but it's actually 59 cards, so opponent didn't quite get to 60. They just stopped short at 59, but we're actually taking the first turn here. I don't remember if they made us go first or if I accidentally picked to go first. I think they made us go first here, which would make sense if they're like a Danger Kaiju kind of base deck. The deck, I think, typically likes to go second, so... but all the same, we can lead with the Terraforming for the Area 0. Unfortunately, we don't reveal any of our Sky Striker cards off that, so... but that's fine, too, because we can still set up the Ray here by using the multi-roll to send the Area 0. Now we can summon Ray. And then just go into Shizuku, because we don't really have much else to do. Although, now that I'm looking at it, I should have activated multi-roll and then Area 0, and then I could have potentially set the Area 0 here again. But, oh, well, it's not that big of a deal, so... yep, we get Kaiju'd here. I'm going to max C as soon as they do that, just in case they try to summon their own Kaiju, but it turns out they're actually going to activate Owner's Seal. Kind of insane that they opened that with their 3,300 Kaiju, but they did manage to do it, so they'll smack us for 3,300, but fortunately it looks like that's all they've got. So I'm going to lead with the monster, or the reinforcement of the army here. Then sure enough, they do have the Ash Blossom. I'm still going to call by here, even though I was kind of using that as bait anyway. It was not even just as bait, it was also just... fill up the graveyard with the appropriate number of spells, so we'll still do the call by here. Besides being limited, like I keep wanting to say best of one format, but that's not how that works. Being limit one format, it's pretty unlikely that they'll have another hand trap that I need to use call by on anyway. So yeah, we'll rotor for the Raws here and then go into the Hayate, activating the engage. We'll search the Widow Anchor and then get our draw, which is definitely not bad. It's a Nibiru, so I'll smack him with the Hayate, and I am planning on taking control of this Kaiju and hitting them directly with the Widow Anchor as well. So we'll not only get to remove their monster, but deal a good bit of damage in the process of doing so. First, though, we'll use Kagiri to wheel the Engage back to our hand, but remember, since we have the Kaiju in our main monster zone, we can't activate the Engage until we get that out, so we'll go ahead and link those two away into Zeke here. However, because we've already used Shizuku, we don't really have another good target to go into, per se, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to use Zeke's effect, get rid of this jamming waves. I don't need to boost Zeke's attack a bit so it doesn't get run over quite as easily. But then now we can use multi-roll's effect to set up a bunch of resources from the graveyard. Most importantly, for our opponent's turn, the Widow Anchor and the Shark Cannon, but then also the Engage potentially for our next turn as well, so... Opponent's going to, set everything for a Hail Mary Allure, which they do actually have the card to banish, but doesn't look like that's going to be enough for them as they then go ahead and concede the game. So, yep, just like we saw with Sky Strikers when we did the deck profile, this build for the Limit 1 Festival plays much in the same way, where we're really more just like trying to grind our opponents slowly out of resources rather than end on one big like OTK or board state. Such is the nature of a control deck as opposed to, combo or whatever. So, all right, let's go ahead and move on to the next game. So this game that we're going to be taking a look at here is going to be against a water-based deck. It seems to be like the it has like the stealth Kragans in it, but obviously you can only play the one spawn, so I don't know if that's like the main thing they're going for, but it's what they're playing all the same. So they're going to open here with the Ice Knight, and then after that use Ice Knight's effect to use the extra normal summon for a Barrier Statue of the Torrent. So explains why they didn't go for their Stealth Kraken. Obviously the Barrier Statue is a decent bit better here, but we open with the Maneuver Afterburners, so I'm really not concerned about it. I mean, we could have also just run over the Barrier Statue anyway, but because we have the Maneuver Afterburners, we're going to be able to take care of it specifically. So I'll go ahead and add the Hornet Drones here. And this game, funnily enough, I kind of ended up with both a Sky Striker line and a Zoodiac line at the same time here. So I actually kind of do a little bit of a both, which is a little bit weird because the Sky Striker spells need you to not have any monsters in your main monster zone. So obviously I can't go like as much into the Sky Striker side of these plays as I am going to go into the Zoodiac side of the plays. But it's funny, I kind of was using the Hornet Drones to feel out if my opponent had a hand trap, and then they didn't. So it wasn't my intention from the get-go to ultimately go with a Zoodiac baseline, but then when they didn't have a response to my like prodding, it's like, well, okay, I guess we'll throw in a little Sky Striker action here too. We're always okay with that. So oh, that's right here. So here I activate the Chakanine in order to set up the Trident for trying to go into F-Zero, but I didn't realize I couldn't summon F-Zero in this situation. I forget exactly which effect I used that limits me from going into F-Zero. I think it's, I don't recall off the top of my head, but and then I'm like, well, I'll summon the Trident in attack mode, but then I remembered, oh yeah, its effects are negated, so it's not going to gain attack points, so I can't really do anything with that either. But yeah, it is what it is. We're still able to set up a Trident with a Cataroost for next turn. And then we'll still go ahead and throw on a Zeus on top of that. So if push comes to shove, if things do start to look a little bit dicey, we can always just go full Scorched Earth and just wipe our opponent's board. No problem whatsoever. So we'll still send away the Hayate here for a Shizuku in order to also add, I think we haven't used Engage yet, right? Yeah, so we'll add Engage just as another backup plan for the next turn as well. So we're looking like, obviously we have a really solid board state here. We've got the Trident set up as Disruption. We've got the Zeus as Disruption. We have a Call-By down as Disruption. And then we still have the Nibiru and the Engage for a potential follow-up play there. Now we also set up the Ray. I forgot to point this out. We set up the Ray in the graveyard with the Hayate as well. So that's another really nice thing that we were able to do there. So yeah, that was kind of an interesting opening hand, or not opening hand, but that was an interesting hand there where, no, I guess it was an opening hand. That was our first turn. Anyway, interesting hand where we have to kind of like play both sides, which I thought was going to be a little bit awkward, and it was what made me kind of hesitate to try a variant like this, but they managed to play pretty well together. So yeah, they're going to have a Kaiju for our Trident at the start here, but still not too scared because at the end of the day, I have a Zeus out, and Zeus is a very scary monster, so I'm going to use Area Zero's effect, and I'll chain the Call-By because, why not? I'm expecting the Area Zero to destroy it anyway, so we'll go ahead and Call-By their Barrier Statue just so they're not able to recur that. I don't know if they can, but, better safe than sorry. No Sky Striker card here, but that's fine. I'll just go ahead and use my Mystery Dust Kaiju here anyway to get rid of the face down monster, which actually ended up being Penguin Soldier, of all things. That's another thing I wanted to point out about this game. Another reason I like this game is that this face down monster, I was like, you never know. It could just be something that randomly is really good for my opponent if it gets attacked or destroyed while face down. So I'll tribute it instead. And then sure enough, it was Penguin Soldier, which is a random old card. Like, I remember having this card as a kid. That would have really messed me up if this flip effect had resolved. So I'm pretty satisfied in my decision to summon Z Kaiju. Yeah, unfortunately, that Valor is going to keep me from being able to really use my Zeke to go for more damage or potentially even lethal here. So I'm just going to have to run over and be satisfied knowing that I still just have a Zeus board wipe in play, in addition to the crossout, which may or may not come up. But yeah, my opponent realizes this and then at this point goes ahead and went ahead. Grammar. I'm good at it, I swear. Went ahead and conceded just knowing that we've got lethal there. So all right, let's go ahead and move on to the next game here. Alright, so this game is a pretty good one from what I remember. This one was against a kind of Swordsoul, Tenyi, just worms in general type of deck. There's also playing a little Nemesis engine as well. I remember seeing the Nemesis Corridor and I think a couple other Nemesis cards, but Yeah, opponent is going to take the first turn here, naturally because we are going second deck. They plead with Desires, which I think is really, really interesting that you would lead with Desires there, because I actually kind of thought about putting Desires in some of my decks, but it's at the same time, it's like it's best of one format, or not best of one. I told you I was going to keep saying that. No, not best of one. It's limit one format. Like Desires in limit one format, it's so easy for you to banish like so many vital cards all at once in one fell swoop. Like, I'm not saying the advantage isn't good. I think in particularly this format, the advantage is really good, but I don't think Desires is worth the risk personally. So that's why I haven't been including it. That's why I've been using Prosperity instead, because when you're playing these kind of like, it's kind of nerfed weirdly a little bit extra decks, then you have more things to send for Pot of Prosperity. So yeah, activating the Rhoda first, even though I'm going to go ahead and go for the Zoodiac line here, because I just want to see if they have like an Ash or a response or anything. Not that my plays with the Zoodiacs are particularly susceptible to Ash, but I just want to see what, if any, response they would have, so I decided to just Rhoda there first. Besides, Ray and Ra's are really the only Rhoda targets, so I can Rhoda for Ray pretty confidently and not have to worry about, like, oh, using the Rhoda for a better target later. Like, it's pretty much always going to be for Ray unless we draw her, so. Yep, but I'll just keep things pretty simple here. Just going to summon the Whip Seal, go into the Borbo, battle directly, and then stack a whole bunch of Zoodiac monsters on top of one another for good old Zeus here. Because we're playing the extra Zoodiac monster in the form of the Hammer Kong, I'm just going to go for a 6 material Zeus here, which might be a little bit greedy, but I think is ultimately the right call. My opponent is going to end up Nibiruing here, so but fortunately they did it before I sent the or stacked on the Trident, which that's kind of like, I don't blame my opponent for not thinking that. Like, I probably wouldn't think about it in the moment, but if they really wanted to play optimally, they would have let me stack on the Trident and then Nibiru'd, because then I wouldn't have any other Zoodiacs left in my extra deck, which makes my Zoodiacs my main deck and my Zeus in my extra deck dead cards. But well, unless I draw the Pot of Avarice, which I think did I point that out that I am actually, oh no, I think I'm playing Pot of Avarice. I should be playing Pot of Avarice in this build, because I was thinking about playing Pot of Avarice in another deck, the Tri-Brigade Zoodiac deck for the Limit 1 Festival. And I think that is actually, the more that I've thought about that, I think that is a good call for that deck. I think I'm actually considering for my next video for this format to just be like a retooled version of that deck. But that said, if there's any specific Limit 1 Festival deck you would like to see, feel free to let me know in the comments, and I will go ahead and look into that and see if I can build it, and if I do, if I can get some good games out of it. And if that's the case, then I am definitely more than happy to showcase it. So yeah, we're looking really good here with this setup. We got the the Widow Anchor online, and I actually went ahead and set the Jamming Waves as a bluff as well, just because I didn't want to make it too obvious where the Widow Anchor was. I'm going to go ahead and get Shark Cannon here too, just in case I need some extra help securing the game. I could potentially do that using my opponent's monsters and materials. And if I recall correctly, that's actually going to end up being pretty much exactly what how I end up closing out this game here. So yeah, I'm going to get rid of their face down monster for a Kaiju, so I'm going to Kaiju of my own. But because of the Kaiju in the main monster zone, I can't activate anything unless I get rid of it, so then we're going to go into Zeke. After that, I'm able to use Shark Cannon's effect. I'll get back my opponent's Nibiru. It doesn't really matter what I get back here, because what I'm going to do is then I'm going to link climb from there into a link 3 and a Nightmare Unicorn. But I'm not activating Nightmare Unicorn's effect here on the Gamma Steel. Instead, I'm going to Widow Anchor the Gamma Steel over to my side, and then link those into good old access code Talker, which is going to be enough damage to close the game out here. So, funnily enough, here my opponent could have just waited, one more minute for me to actually declare the attack and gotten the medals. But again, I don't blame him for conceding. I've been doing it too when I lose in this format. So, but yeah, that was just a cool way, I think, of showing how you can like pivot between lines based on what resources you have, particularly with a deck like this. So, okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next game. So this next game is going to be against another Swordsoul Tenyi, but this one has a Rose engine thrown in there, which is definitely not a bad idea. Might go ahead and actually end up trying that myself. And to be fair, I know I said, I think in the last video that, I didn't see that many Swordsouls. I saw a fair bit more in Limited 1 than I recalled. So There is that, in all fairness. So it looks like our opponent's going to lead with a Baron here, and they're getting rid of the Blackout to do it. I really like to see that because the Baron with this hand is much more manageable than the Blackout. Although, given that they might have only had one Warren monster on the board anyway, I might have been able to use this Kaiju as an out to the Blackout anyway. So, but we're definitely going to use it now as an out to the Baron. Well, not the one we opened with, but now the Gamma Seal, because we can special summon our other Kaiju and just run over the Gamma Seal. But before I do that, I'm going to Prosperity. Oh, and I want to point this out here. I actually did end up Prosperitying. Oh no, I'm sorry, I did it for 3 here. I thought this was I think that might be the next game I Prosperity for 6. But I did end up Prosperitying for 6, and I think that should be in the next game we watch. Now that I think about it, but yeah. So I'll just go ahead and go for good old Borbo here, and then my opponent's just going to pretty much snap concede at that point, which really goes to show, I think, the power of Zoodiacs in this format, not just in tri-brigade Zoodiac, but just in general. And this is something I talked about when I was showcasing the tri-brigade Zoodiac deck in particular, right? Was this idea that Zoodiacs as an engine are kind of perfect for this festival because they are by nature relatively relegated to like a limited number of copies anyway, right? Like in most, not even most, pretty much all tri-brigade Zoodiac decks, we're not playing, well, I guess some people do play 2 Thoroughblade, 1 Ram Ram, but for the most part, we're playing 1 Thoroughblade, 1 Ram Ram, and then either 1 Whiptail or 1 Cataroo. So, I mean, obviously in a pure Zoo deck, you want 3 of, all the Zoodiac monsters, or at least most of them, but here I think we're just fine throwing in the Cataroost and Bunny Blast, and then the extra deck for Zoodiacs doesn't change at all. You always just played 1 of each of them anyway. So in that regard, like I said, I think Zoodiac's just a very, very powerful deck, or engine, not even deck, but you could make an argument that's a deck too. But just in this format in general, Zoodiac's good is the main point I'm getting at. Okay, we've got one more game to watch. Let's go ahead and just dive straight on into it. So this is the final game we're going to watch for this video. This is going to be against a Phantom Knight Burning Abyss deck, or PK Fire, as it's often called. So, and it is more of a Burning Abyss deck as well, because it's playing Dante and other Burning Abyss monsters too from the main deck. But they're going to lead with the Terratop for the Takaton board here. So now here you might have wondered, like, well, why didn't you Gamma when they Terratop? And I thought to myself, if I Gamma the Terratop, they'll probably have another way to make a level 3 or a rank 3 anyway, or I guess in this case a Cherubni. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let them use the Terratop in the Takaton board, and then I'll just negate the Rusty Bardish further down the line, or something else further down the line, rather than use my Gamma here, just to potentially have them make the same play anyway. So that's ultimately what we end up doing. Now, you might also have observed that I do have multiple board wipe cards in my hand, and as I pointed out in the last Limit 1 video I did with Phantom Knights, is that having multiple board wipe cards is very, very good. Very, very good in this format. So, opponent's got not 1 but 2 Burning Abyss monsters in their hands, so I definitely know at this point they're more PK Fire than just a regular Phantom Knight deck. Still able to go into Levier at this point, so it's now here when my opponent Leviers that, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and chain Gamma. And you might think that's kind of a weird space to chain that, but the reason that I did that is because I know they're trying to bring back the Ancient Cloak, and then I know they obviously just use that cloak in order to add a Silent Boot. So they have a Silent Boots, and I think I might actually know one of these other cards, but I'm pretty sure it's Silent Boots and 2 unknown. So I know if I negate and destroy this Levier, then that's going to stop them from going to their own F0 potentially, and in addition to that, it's going to keep them from getting a Fatal Knight on the board, which means they won't be able to special their Silent Boots, and ideally won't be able to continue their line of play here. So that's why I saved and then used Gamma when I did. I wanted to make sure I pointed that out in this game, because I feel those are important distinctions of when to use the hand trap here. Now, my opponent's still going to be able to combo off. It's not ultimately going to affect the course of the game, or affect the course of their combo too much. They're still able to go into Rusty Bardish, and then obviously, if you go into the Bardish, you've got plays from there. But I would like to think that it did disrupt them at least a decent bit, and force them to be a little bit awkward with their line. Like, maybe they could have used that Monster Reborn for something a lot more powerful, I think, if they hadn't been disrupted when they did and had the Levier on board. Like, I again didn't realize initially that they were so Burning Abyss reliant. I actually don't remember from looking at their deck if they had the F-Zeros in there, but when I saw the Levier go to bring back the cloak and I knew they had a Boots in hand, that was the thing that was going through my brain. It's like, okay, an F-Zero is about to come down, so I should stop that now. Okay, looks like they're making the break sword here. Yeah, I can use that to pop one of my... No, they use it to pop itself. That's right. Now they're going to go for their own rank 4. Good old Dark Rebellion. But fortunately for us, it's turn 1. So, but yeah, they're clearly setting up the Dark Requiem here. So, yeah, they got the Dark Requiem. This is, I don't remember if we know for sure, but I'm pretty confident this is Fogblade either way. But we opened with the Feather Duster and the Raigeki because we're the luckiest player in the world. So, you know, there's really no need to worry too much about it. Again, like I emphasized in the last video, having those board wipes, especially back row removal, is so very important for this format. It really is. Alright, now before anything else, I'm going to Prosperity here, and that's right, this is where I Prosperity for 6, because I want to talk about this and show the particular 6 that I banished here, and also why I decided to do that in this moment. So, I saw the Prosperity, and I'm looking at my hand, I'm thinking to myself, you know, like, yeah, I can out their board, but I really need my own way to start my own plays here, because if I don't get that with this Prosperity, then, like, I don't have a follow-up, and that just leaves me open, and then giving them the opportunity to come back with a follow-up, and especially being the Phantom Knight deck, and you know, having this stuff set up in their graveyard, it's definitely important for me to know that I'm going to be able to make a powerful impact on the board state, not just with my Raigeki, but again with the follow-up. So that's the main reason I was like, okay, I want a Prosperity for 6, because what my thought process was, like, if I can get a Tenyi or a Zoodiac even, like, I'll take a Ray and go for Sky Striker stuff as well, but if I can get a Zoodiac after wiping this board, then I can establish a Zeus, and then I'm very confident that the game will just be mine at that point. So as far as which 6 to banish, you can see the ones I banished here. I just decided to banish my F-Zeros because I thought, you know, with my current hand and the current board state, I don't think I'll be going out of my way to go into these at all. Hammer Kong is pretty easy banish because it's just an extra Zoodiac name that's not necessary. Kaina is a relatively easy banish because we don't often go for her, I mean in general, but especially in this format, it's not often at all that you summon her. And then finally decided to banish the Unicorn and the Access Code Talker here because I thought to myself, well, I probably with this hand won't be able to use the line that goes into that. So again, just wanted to explain not only why I was going for 6, but also how I picked the 6 I was going into. And it does pay off, as the 5th card is Whiptail. Now, there was a Roz in the first 3, too. So, I mean, yeah, like I said, we would have had some amount of plays. But it's definitely better, I think, in this case to have, not even just I think, I know it's better in this case to have the Zoodiac as opposed to the Sky Striker line, because obviously the Zeus is extremely strong here. And I don't remember if I touched on this before, but one way that the Zoodiac and Sky Striker engines do synergize very nicely together is that because of the Zoodiacs, you're just sitting on one Xyz monster. What you can end up doing at the end is just throwing your Trident and or Zeus or whatever Xyz monster you end on. You can just put in your extra monster zone instead of one of the main ones, and then we can set up our Sky Striker spells to still be used. So I'm going to end up doing just that here. I'll put the Zeus in my extra deck zone and then set the Widow Anchor. That way I can have the Widow Anchor be live, and I might not necessarily have to use 2 of Zeus's materials in order to out a board here. So during the end phase, opponent's going to bring back Rusty Bardish. I'm pretty confident I know what's up here. They're going to try to use the Bardish effect to pop my Zeus by special summoning. Yeah, they're just going to straight up summon the Break Sword to try to summon it into that zone, but I just flipped up Widow Anchor in response, not only to negate, but also just steal the Bardish, because one, then it means they won't be able to really use Bardish. You can't really link with it anyway, but it's not going to be useful during their turn either way. But obviously it also actively keeps me from getting my effects negated. So yeah, as soon as my opponent sees me go to activate the Zeus there, then I think they realize that, no, I've probably just got it. Although the only card in my hand was the Kaiju, so I don't know if it was like guaranteed. Well, I'm trying to remember what they were even at. How sad is that? I was looking at their life points like not but 15 seconds ago, and I don't remember what they were at the end there. But again, it's the festival. It's kind of to be expected that people are going to concede a little bit more loosey-goosey, I guess, kind of like that. So, all right, that's it for the games here. Let's go ahead and move on now to the outro. Okay, everybody, as always, just want to thank you for watching to the very end of the video like this. It definitely means a lot when you do that. It's a great way to support the channel. And yeah, I really liked this deck, just this kind of mashup of general good going second strategies. And again, it was just kind of inspired by wanting to have a good going second deck. It's another cool thing about this format in general is that due to the fact that everything is limited to one, every archetype does just kind of get boiled down to an engine as opposed to a fully fleshed out deck. So it lets you get a little bit creative in that you can mix and match different archetypes. So I'm kind of debating if I want to just go through and see if I can find 2 other archetypes that just kind of gel well together. I definitely would like to do at least one more of these videos for the Limit 1 Festival, so if you have anything in particular you would like me to play, if you have any suggestions, let me know in the comments. That's also a good segue to lead into the fact that I am also appreciative, not only for you watching to the end like this, but also if you're commenting and subscribing. That is excellent, because the comments, I love community engagement. A lot of people know, a lot of the regulars here know that I've got the viewer specials. I'm always responding to comments. I try to, every video, at least respond to one comment, but often what I'll do every day, typically in the mornings, I'll just sit down and I'll take about 15 or so minutes and I'll just go through the comments and respond to a bunch of them. So yeah, no, again, I super appreciate hearing from you guys. I have one of the best comment sections on YouTube. That's why I like to interact with it so much. And of course, by subscribing, you are not only doing a huge favor to support the channel, but you'll also get notified then when my videos are up, which they do go out every single day. So if you subscribe, you can look forward to daily Master Duel content from yours truly. But I think that's going to do it for now. So without further ado, this is Xlex signing out. Hope you guys have a fan. Oh, you know what? That was a really weak. Hang on. Gotta hydrate to get some water there. Let's try that. Yeah, try that again. Without further ado, this is Xlex signing out. Hope you guys have a fantastic day.